it was fascinating. Was it last year? Year before? Yes, last year I believe you talked about the fort at Whiston, and that was. I mean, that was absolutely fascinating, and with many, rather unusual, interesting features. But to have got this additional information, because Ardra Settlement, all this is putting Whiston right at the heart of, well, Roman studies, I think, in Britain even, because it's unusual, distinctive, and you're going to tell us all about it.
Right, well, last year I talked about the discovery of the fort, which I'll just quickly go over again. But as you can see by the title, a little bit more this year on a settlement we found very close by as well. Not something that showed up on aerial photographs, though, as Toby will see, aerial photographs have been quite important for that site as well. It's just a vague run-line of how the talk will go, but I'll anyway, here we go, the Romans in Pembrokeshire. I showed this slide last year, just trying to get the emphasis of how little we know as it comes, as the Romans sort of head west from Carmarthen. There's the site of Whiston. And, well, the blue line with the red line is really showing the alignment of where we think the Roman road leads, going over to the site itself at Whiston at Churchill Farm, far end. So the blue lines are where it's a conjectured line for the Roman road, and the red lines are where it's been confirmed through aerial photography. Yes, note there, the road is meant to be there through those fields. So the site of the fort was quite obvious. This is a first editional survey map from the 80s or 70s, showing this rectangular, inverted C-shaped quarry. Now, as Toby mentioned earlier, there were aerial photographs from the 80s and before where people had thought this did look like a Roman fort, but then it's the quarry here that was marked on these earlier maps made people sort of dismiss it as the site itself. So here's an early aerial photograph showing exactly the same overlaid on that map. Here's an inverted C-shaped quarry, and then tying that in with more recent information from this vertical scanning LiDAR data. You've got the C-shaped quarry here, but then you've actually got entrance and then the return of the opposite side of this very typical plain-shaped Roman fort. Covering an area, well, it's about 160 metres by about 120 metres, about the size of a Roman auxiliary fort, so approximately 1,000 men potentially were stationed. This led on to, in 2012, we were funded by CADI to undertake a geophysical survey of the site. Areas which we haven't surveyed here because of the quarry and the vegetation there, it wasn't possible to do the geophysical surveying on that. But what it led us to see was 3 ditches, well, very large ditches. Well, in fact, I'll show the next slide because that's the geophysics and that's the interpretation. So these are 3 ditches in the outer defences. We'd also got a number of ditches in the southern part of the defences, though these have been obscured because it was later on used as the main road out of the quarry itself. So that sort of led to the ground being compressed and some of the ditches don't show up as well as they could have done. Obviously the western side of the fort, anyway, western side of the fort actually follows the main road that now leads from Whiston up to Crowlston, and the eastern side being the quarry itself. Talking about those aerial photos, this is one from the 80s, showing this is the northern end, where this is the quarry here, this is the northern end of the fort, and actually you can probably make out that there are 3 ditches there. So again, it's a bit of a shame it wasn't, well, not a shame, it's a bit of a surprise it wasn't really pushed forward as being a fort at that time. And then this is just trying to put in just an interpretation of where those ditches probably go for the fort itself. Then CADI funded us in 2013 to undertake a bit of a trial trench evaluation within the fort, which was rather interesting. I'm just going to go back a couple of slides to that one there. Obviously, we have the fort. I hadn't even mentioned this strange enclosure in the middle. We did put some trenches through that as well. basically, for the fort, with the finds that we got from the fort from 2013 and the sort of state of preservation of the remains, it looks like it was occupied from mid-70s AD, as you'd expect, but probably had been abandoned by 100 AD. Now then, with later finds that we got on site, nearly were all exclusively from that central enclosure, that trapezoidal enclosure I showed you about the geophysical survey plot a couple of slides ago. Obviously, later activity than was within the fort itself. So, this year we thought, well, we asked CADIP if we could do some more geophysical survey at the fort. And obviously, it is so important. You know, we confirmed it was the fort. It's absolutely excellent what we got out of last year. And they agreed. We did some geophysical survey in a field to the northwest. This is delaying, showing the next slide, trying to build the tension. And we also did geophysical survey of the two fields to the south. Now, the field to the northwest, which is Clarkson Showground, if anybody's seen that or been there, really the only geophysical remains we got were for old field boundaries, which we can follow on early ordnance survey maps. We did that, I think it was in March this year, so we're a little bit disappointed. And then in June, we undertook geophysical survey of the fields to the south. So there's the field to the northwest. These mostly following earlier field boundaries. Some possible features in there. But these two fields, an area of around 10 hectares, as you can see, littered with a series of, all of these dark features seem to represent cut features, ditches and things across the whole of that site. As I say, around 10 hectares worth. Next slide is basically trying to show you where the alignments of those ditches are going. Different thicknesses are trying to show how strong those features are. Now, obviously this was just after a geophysical survey. We hadn't put any trenches in the ground, but just trying to read what we could see from these features. It did seem to, well, there was the hint of the road coming through, which I'll just go back a slide, actually comes through as this, rather than being a dark cut feature, it actually seems to be this, a different sort of feature, more of a raised feature rather than a cut feature. There's less moisture in that compared to those others, or less burnt material, so it's more sterile ground. But then you seem to have almost three alignments of enclosures. There's one coming through that seems to really follow the road. Yes, some of it are cutting the road and on either side of the road. Questions yet to be answered. But then you seem to have a whole series going off to the south, and then also this whole group of features going off to the southwest. That's heading down really towards the castle site, which would be, if you can see behind Heather's desk, where my pointer is down there. And then if you go about another kilometre, I think, southwest of that, that's where you get to Conklin Hill, where Toby was showing photos of earlier. The castle site meant to be an Iron Age enclosure prior to the medieval castle being there, and obviously Conklin Hill probably Iron Age as well. So indicating there's a lot of Iron Age activity in this area. We have our fort, and then we have all these series of enclosures. Now, at this stage, we weren't sure whether we were looking at, could they be Iron Age? I mean, obviously, I jumped automatically. No, they're all Roman, because that's what I wanted. Anyway, so, in July, we undertook some trial trenching. We, through funding from CADIP, we did the 4 trenches in the southern field. Just the one of the southern fields as well, I hasten to mention, so we really have looked at a very small amount of these fields, which very sensibly are called 5, 6, 7 and 8, because we did 1, 2 and 3 last year within the fort. We also had some funding from a private source, from the David and Christopher Lewis Foundation, which enabled us to undertake further trenching, a larger trench within the fort field, in an area where we'd had the remains of buildings, and we had to get a little bit more identification of the plan of the buildings, ramparts, interland road, etc. So I'll talk about 4 later on, because today is really more about this settlement to the south. Well, no, anyway. Trench 5. This was a trench that we opened up really the northeastern corner of the field, just directly south of where the fort lies, which is that field boundary there. So this is the trench. Now, on the geophysical survey, really all we got was one geophysical feature which seemed to be a curving ditch, and sure enough, we found it within our trench, but not through an awful lot of hard work trying to find it. It was not easy. And the bottom end of the trench, all we had was a mass of archaeological material. This is looking southwards, so from that end across this area, all these stones, dark materials, slight patches of sort of more yellowy clay material, then more dark material, all the way up roughly to that which is a modern field ring. We excavated through these layers. We were finding more and more stone. Some of it looked worked, building stone. Awful lot of pottery coming out from this area. Lots of burnt materials, almost slag material. Those things have been fired quite high. Bits of tile, large pieces of amphora. Till eventually, at the end, in the time we had, we obviously got down to the bottom here. This is the natural ground here. Possibly a metal surface here, a bit like a Roman road, but underneath all this material, which is a bit strange. And then just showing the various layers and layers of material. Now, it didn't seem to be many features. It seemed to be material that had been thrown. Now, I should explain the topography of this part of the field. He says, hoping the pointer will work. It rises up, the Fort Fields is up on higher ground, it then drops down. It's quite a plateau in that corner, then drops down. So when we're looking at the trench, it drops down here. This is like the base of the field, and then starts rising up again here. So it's almost like there was a lower part of the field, whether it was wet or it was just used for dumping. And this material was thrown off this area, which was a slight raised area. So there's a section through all that material that that the volunteers were excavating through. Lovely, lovely dark fields with an awful lot of pottery. Now, most of the pottery that we looked at was in the early part of the excavation and did seem to be pushing into the sort of 150 AD onwards, but we didn't get the lower material spot dated, and that's where quite a bit of our amphora was coming out, which is obviously important. That later material is probably UK made, so still got a lot to do on the analysis of the pottery for this bit, but I'm hoping that comes out early to go with the fort, because here's the fort ditches here. This is the little plateau in the top corner of the field that even the geophysics seem to indicate a rounded corner kind of enclosure around it. And then we have an awful lot of high readings in the middle, lots of burnt material. And then you start thinking, well, what outside a fort might need remnants of building stone? There's lots of burning, there's lots of ash and stuff being thrown out, probably down into some unused ground down here, which I hasten to point out on that map. That little line there shows the line of where they think the modern day sort of stream course starts from. So there's a water source there as well, directly outside the fort. Bits of tile found, even though not from this trench, but there was a bit of box flue tile found fairly nearby. I'd love to say bathhouse, but I better skip on. Looking then, moving up the field into Trench 6, this is where we had a whole series of more of these enclosures that you can see on that geophysical survey plot, that mix and wholesome spider's web of ditches. Now, sure enough, nearly everything that showed up on the geophysical survey was revealed in the trenches, including a few other features as well, showing that it's quite busy. I mean, we were getting lots of small post holes as well as the main ditches themselves. So I'm just trying to give you an indication on these photographs. I'll talk about this ditch at the top here, very steep V-shaped ditch, straight through, very, very linear, running down the field to the north. Then these two are just the enclosure ditches that we took out. Now, I also just mentioned that when these were first opened, they showed up a treat. And then, not complaining, it was a beautiful, warm, well, in fact, incredibly hot summer, but this ground does take to being, everything eventually turns to exactly the same colour, even when you're trying to look for these big ditches, which is a real shame when we didn't put some here. Also within that trench, skipping on a photo now, I've lost it. Right. Also within this trench, there was meant to be the line of the road. That was that line I showed earlier on the geophysical survey plot. When we excavated it, and this is the bit I was trying to talk wrong about earlier, I was fairly dismissive because we didn't have a road. What we had was this cut feature filled with lots of silt, and then underneath was the natural ground, but incredibly compact. And Rob and John, who were both digging it, suggested that it might be a road, and I think I was quite dismissive at the time. Anyway, this is one of the photos that Toby took when we were on site. point where this silty filled feature with this incredibly compact stone bottom follows this line, east-west road. Sorry, well there you go, I've already interpreted it. Looks like the road line going straight through. So perhaps rather than being an agger for a road, and that's what we were looking for, in fact maybe because it's of constant use for many hundreds of years since, it's actually turned into more of a hollow lane on that side. Something worth thinking about. And also it may not have been the only road on the site as well. They may have moved or changed course, which might be why some of those enclosures seem to cut across. Trench 7, sorry, this is up nearer, again, the Fort Field, which again, this is the trench where we found a bit of box flue tile from. This one had two very, very large post holes with an enormous amount of large stone blocks put in there, seemingly for very large posts, presuming it's a building, but obviously within our trench, which was only about 15 metres long, we couldn't see an awful lot to make a lot of the building plan. What we did get was the post holes seemed to be cut through this very silty material, silty sort of and clay material. Looked like it might have been brought in. Possibly it's floor surfaces. Possibly there's an awful depth of floor surfaces there. So it may well have been a large wooden structure. Whether it's well, it could be for agricultural processing. That's where I'm going. But it's a big building that may have been used because of the lack of pottery in this trench, either with the fort or possibly with that settlement with the ditches and everything else we had beyond. Because I didn't mention on the last slide, sorry about that, that the pottery we got out of Trench 6 all was going for this 150 to 300 AD, that sort of thing from the features we had there. This trench, less pottery, a bit of sailing. And then this strange feature as well, stone capped, seemingly a little flue, possibly going to a corn dryer. So again, maybe it's agricultural processing. The last trench, Trench 8, again, more of these enclosure ditches we had from the geophysical survey, and I won't forget this time. The pottery we're getting out, 150 AD onwards, sort of 300 AD, sort of black burnished ware, imitation UK made Samian ware, well, call it Samian ware, Samian imitation ware, and grey ware from Neath coming out of these features. But again, the geophysical survey and the features we got seemingly marrying up quite nicely. So, leads us on, as I say, I think we can, from the small amount we've done, obviously these 4 trenches across these sites, it's only a little tiny part of this field that we've actually looked at. We haven't even looked at the field east of that. But the pottery we're getting would indicate that it seems to be some form of settlement that was occupied 150 AD through, into the latest 200s. I mentioned there was this very linear ditch that comes through here, runs down from almost the high point of the field here, all the way down to where you get to this bottom, the little river, sort of lower part of the field, which if I remove everything else, just showing this incredibly distinct feature, cut there by that road, a gap there which I can't explain, and definitely ends here. We think, and one of the many theories is, could it be that we had a spring at the top of the hill, and what they were doing was bringing the water down, and over time, over 2,000 years, it somehow seems to have married into the modern watercourse at the moment, which is why the stream then seems to be shown here on Northern Survey maps that certainly is visible from this point on, springing off and then going off that direction. Water leading down, well, it wouldn't take much to pipe that across to my bathhouse, would it? But anyway, or even via a little aqueduct, timber aqueduct, nothing particularly possible, straight into the fort itself. With the fall on the ground there, it would be totally feasible to do that. And obviously with the Romans' intellect and knowledge and their industrial capabilities well in there, easily be able to do that. Talk very briefly about the trench we did within the fort itself. As you can see, lots of pits and post holes. The red ones are post holes. This is trench 1 that we did from 2013, where we found material like the ramparts, absolutely fantastic. We had there a whole bands of layers of clay and what looked like turves cut. Theoretically, would curve round to there, where we this year again found very clearly a whole series of the ramparts following on through. Also, if you remember last year, we had our Intervallum Road, which we were very pleased with. This beautifully defined, about 3 layers of stone thickness, coming from that to surface the modern day road over the ditches? I don't know. Maybe it was never there. We really don't know. What we did get in its place, in fact covering most of this area, were a whole series of stakeholders, form of which we, just for little spine, sort of tin posts, just push things in the ground, small ones. Anyway, so it's a bit of a shame, and I was spending ages and getting very frustrated, as I'm sure people will remember, because we didn't find that. We did find a whole series of stone crushed across the top of here, which I first of all thought might be our road, but it was too extensive and too thin in material. Some photos of the ground parts, the clay and sort of bands of turf, that's pre-excavation and as we were excavating through it. These are some of the pits that we were excavating. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time and some of the depths were such that we couldn't dig them all out. This one showed up very clearly from the start, a few sherds of pottery out of there, probably fitting in with that early date of the fort, that late, well, the mid-70s to 100 AD. This second pit, which, as though, it shows up beautifully there. Yes, I've scored it in a bit there, but it took us up until about the second last day before we could really define that. Suddenly a huge pit, and also noticed that it was perfectly visible on the geophysical survey plot as well. And then post holes. Stone-lined post holes. This is on the northern edge of the trench, one there, there's one there, and one there. And then we're also getting other ones that we excavated within stone-lined post holes. Now, these are two that we had from Trench 1 the year before, all seemingly very simply constructed, layered with local stone to form the post hole, presumably for some fairly substantial posts. Now, what I was really hoping is we'd put these two trenches together and you'd see your building plan straight off and be able to say, yes, we've got a barrack block with a central line of post holes. But I can't yet, even though I've tried to. So it's just showing again. Maybe, but it's really conjectural at the moment. So going back to this second, what does it mean? Well, it seems to be Romano-British. It seems to be later than the fort. We don't get many Romano-British settlements in Pembrokeshire, as you probably know. It's really extensive. From the small amount of excavation we've done, which I keep going back to because obviously I'm making lots of conjecture here, if it is of that date, it would seem to show groups of people have actually joined together, but these could all be sort of enclosures for small farmsteads. We're not looking at something really intense. It doesn't seem to be a vicus as we'd understand it, servicing the fort itself. This seems to be something a bit later on. It seems more rural in character. It's having that sort of UK-based pottery that it's been using. But it's certainly a group of people who are seemingly taking on the Romano-British way as opposed to the sort of more native British way. I showed on this photo, because I put that in relation to the fort, but maybe by that stage the fort had gone, and actually this ties in more with our strange trapezoidal enclosure that we had within the fort. Maybe this is still military occupied of some sort, but on a much smaller scale. Maybe it's an intricate fortlet or some kind of staging post or whichever. We still got the road running through and the fort, or whatever, this area within the fort itself. So, just looking at that overall picture, still got lots of work to do there. All the fields here. I say we've looked at very little. Now, through the funding we had this year, just very quickly, it's very unlikely that we're going to get more funding from CADI next year because, in effect, we've answered the questions that they need. This is of schedulable quality. This needs to be preserved. We did get our funding for our extra trench from the David and Christopher Lewis Foundation, which, again, in the end, as I'm sure people remember, again, I was so frustrated with that. But by the end, it came good, which is pretty good, isn't it? But there is still so much more to learn about this site. So I'm going back to another little animation thing that I did last year, looking for the forts. Just doing your basic line of marching, the distance of each of these radii is this sort of Roman march away from each other. Obviously what we're missing is this fort of Whitland, as Toby mentioned as well. Now last year I also said, well, wouldn't it be great to find forts in these places? Which of course we haven't done any work on. But I also put forward these two forts. This one we might have seen outside of St David's and the one at Kilpainton Burrows. Well again, from the work we further money from CADU to do geophysical surveys of both those two places. They're not falls. And then another one I mentioned was White Sands. You know, the possibility of a port there. Now, you know, that would imply there'd have to be something predating the chapel and some of the burials at St Patrick's Chapel. But anyway, I won't talk about that. But the other thing is that we're looking at a large Romano-British settlement. You know, that seems to be, it's not an Iron Age in its form. It seems to be a group of, or a large group of people coming together, working together. It's a different kind of social structure at the moment than we're probably used to or expecting within Roman Pembrokeshire. You know, maybe it's just because we managed to be able to geophysical survey 10 hectares worth of fields in a sort of prime, obviously at Wiston, this prime archaeological site. You know, maybe there's more geophysical survey work in other places that would show that up. Obviously, the remains are slight, so they're probably not big enough, I don't think, unless we're completely in the right conditions to show up on aerial photographs. He says, looking at Toby. Maybe they would, you don't know. But you know, so maybe this is it, geophysical surveys the way. And Mike's talk earlier, he was saying about some of the survey he'd done, how much he's been finding. So we just think, blankets, geophysical survey, what else, that'd be great. Just very quickly, and I know it's not Pembrokeshire, going back to Whitland. Now I know I want to talk to Heather about this as well. It would be great, here's Whitlands. Now I know the blue and red line again, the Roman road, this area here is still visible as an earthwork, it's scheduled. Ken Murphy, the trust director, is very keen that the fort probably lies over here, over where the rugby ground lies in Whitland. Perfect, good, outlook place. I don't know, but and here's an aerial photo at the same sort of spot. So the road goes through. I don't know. Wouldn't it be nice? Anyway, this is just above the school, so maybe that's somewhere worth looking at. Oh, by the way, that square. Sorry, that square. He says, go the right way. It's roughly the same size as Wiston. Just in case. But of course, I better wrap up very quickly. We do this work. I find it fascinating. I find it excellent. It's a great way to spend 3 weeks out in the summer on site, and an amazing site to work with. But the amount of work we get done is obviously due to the amount of volunteers we have who do spend an awful long time. I think we were there 3 weeks, and there were an awful, well, quite a lot of people who were there for every day we were on site. You know, so this working in the various fields. We did make them do some odd things. The ground really was very, very dry at times, so luckily we had a water bowser, and watering the site was something that we did have to do on a regular basis. And then when it did rain, they had to listen to me talking to them about what's going on the site. Did let them have breaks, of course. And but generally it was well, I hope everybody enjoyed it. It was an excellent time. And I think just the amount of information we got out was great. John, anyway, yeah. He's fine, though I haven't seen him. And they even found pottery, a bit of black birch west, straight out of one of the holes there. Just found that. And of course we did make them do ridiculous things. When it's really sunny, we need shade. How best to do it? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James. That's so many questions really, and it's wonderful to think that more work could be done there. I think the problem is that we see the Roman period as a sort of monolithic period, don't we? We think, okay, the Roman period, sort of 75 to 400, and that's it. But it's actually, I think, it's two different periods. And there's some big changes that happened in the sort of coming into the latest part of the 2nd century. I mean, we've seen strange things like the Henleys and the Annex. So I think we can fit some of what you're finding with those changes that we see. The defended